Welcome to the Spend Advantage podcast by Verisource. Spend Advantage is the competitive advantage for your spend across 100 plus vendor categories. This podcast is all about interviewing amazing people, company, and solutions that will help you 10x your top line growth as well as bottom line savings for your business. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Spend Advantage podcast with Verisource. Super excited to have one of our new partners on the call today, Dimitri, who is the CEO and founder of Emma. Emma is the all-in-one multi-cloud management platform to help your business manage and save on all clouds. Welcome to the show, Dimitri.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Victor. Thanks for having me. Pleasure being here.
Yeah, you guys have such a unique, there's two things. One is we love cloud savings of all kinds, and you guys have a very unique solution. And so excited for our conversation. If you don't mind, maybe give the audience a little bit of the company founding story. It's always fun.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. We've started to building the product back in 2018. Emma as a product was born out of a real pain. Deploying and managing infrastructure across the clouds was really slow, error prone, and expensive. And I mean, it's still expensive. And we wanted a better way to orchestrate this infrastructure. We wanted to make it like really fast, safe, cost efficient, without getting locked into one vendor. So we decided to start building a product. And I mean, we've spent nearly 5 years, like 4 years before the first prototype that we released, and literally 6 years before we realized that we have hit the product market fit, and the customer will finally found the right approach to our customers, and the customers, they finally realized that if they use AWS, Azure, and Google simultaneously, they're actually adopting multiple clouds, and they are not like a single cloud user that has a kind of extensions in a different other providers. So I mean, we've done a lot to educate the community. We've done a lot to explain that, guys, there is a real problem, and Emma is a right solution.
Yeah. So what did you do maybe in your career before that made you, were you always in cloud? Or what made you want to get into kind of solving this area of cloud?
It's a great question. So the thing is that I started my career like as an engineer, like networking and a security engineer, and I was a bad engineer. So that's why the guys I was working with, they told me, look, you're a bad engineer. You got to do something else. I'm kidding. So I wasn't the best engineer. However, I always liked building the products. And when I faced the opportunity to start building the product at one of the companies I worked for, I asked for a transition. And then I was like managing the product. And it appeared that was like a first network and switch that is being like 10 times cheaper than Cisco's I would say competitive equipment. So we have built that switch, and we released that. And then I was the only person who was able to sell this. So this is how I moved from the product creator to a sales guy. And then guys out of one of the biggest American networking companies, they noticed me and they offered me a job. So I was leading the team responsible for one of the top 15 global accounts for this company. And yeah, that's how I became I found myself managing the sales teams. And I was quite successful. I was leading the sales teams in the different countries and the different regions. And in 2018, I realized that there is a problem in the cloud space, because I was working for the cloud networking company. They were and they are actually building the networking switches, and the switches they support the data center interconnects. And our customers that days, they were constantly asking us if we can also help them to interconnect their on-premises environments, on-premises data centers with their like newly adopted cloud environments. And the obvious answer was, I mean, we cannot help you guys. Unfortunately, we're building the networking equipment, and you got to find another solution. And when you hear this really often from the different organizations, really big organizations, the biggest players out there, and if you have this, kind of like soul of an entrepreneur, then you're like, okay, it seems that there is a problem, and maybe I should leave my everyday job and start building something. That was a big mistake, by the way. So yeah, that's how we started the platform. So I decided to leave a company and start the new venture, and this new venture became Emma.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as an entrepreneur, like I just love hearing these stories, obviously, of what happened, and everybody's journey is a little different. But one word you mentioned that I feel like is going to be a big topic for you and me today is education, because most companies are going to the cloud, especially, startups or tech companies. Everybody's starting in the cloud now. So people are familiar with the cloud, but most companies are only using one single cloud. But that usually causes vendor lock-in and other limitations, but they're not aware of it. So the word you mentioned is education. Can you kind of maybe describe why are most companies using single cloud today and not multi-cloud?
I would say that, first of all, if we look into the statistics, we'll see that in the United States of America, 95% of the bigger organizations, they are hybrid cloud. So they are not even single cloud, they are hybrid cloud, meaning they have an on-premises environments, and they also have cloud environments, public cloud environments are in use. So that's the great starting point. When we're talking about the private clouds, I mean, it's obvious you have your data centers, right? And I mean, especially with this, for this legacy enterprises, they've been hardly investing into this. But when it comes to public environments, it is also, I mean, interesting. So normally companies, when they start with a cloud adoption, they start with something that they are interested in. So for example, they want to roll out their services faster, and the cloud seems to be a nice supportive environment, right? So, and then they think, okay, we got to hire someone, and they hire someone, and this someone has a previous experience with, I don't know, Microsoft. And this someone spins up the infrastructure in Microsoft, and they stay in a single cloud, and they're like, I mean, they're moving more and more of their workloads into the cloud, and they rely on a single provider. It creates dependencies, and then they found themselves limited by the pricing, tooling, regions, availability zones, and the roadmap of this provider. And they realize at one point this provider decides to increase the prices by 10%, and you realize that your cloud environment worth 500 millions of United States dollars annually, and 10% increase is like 50 millions for you on top. And you're like, okay, we're locked in. But you were happy before. You liked the managed services. You never cared about the downtimes. You never cared about the fancy additions that other providers they introduce. You were happy. But again, so one day something happens and you realize that you are locked in and you cannot do anything with that. And why I'm saying that 95% of organizations, they are hybrid cloud, because it is the beginning of being like multi-cloud, because multi-cloud is more than one cloud in use, right? And normally what people do, they move the workloads, they start moving the workloads from on-prem into the clouds. Then they realize that the clouds, they are not that cheap. They have their limitations, and they start either moving the workloads into another provider, the cheaper one, or they try to, redistribute the workloads, put in there, I don't know, testing environments at the cheapest provider, production environments at the most reliable provider. They also want to keep sensitive data stored on premises. And then they realize, okay, it's way too complicated. We gotta repatriate everything back on prem. And I mean, that's hilarious when you see all, this flows back and forth into the cloud, out of the cloud, between the clouds. So getting back to your original question, people, they choose single cloud because at the beginning they love all this and all these services. They love the flexibility. They love that there is someone bigger who has created this multiple managed services where you don't care, you just simply ship your code into somewhere, and this somewhere does all the magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love how in depth. Like, obviously, I love your expertise in these areas, so we can talk for hours. And like you said, that's why
Yeah.
AWS. A lot of these cloud guys, start with the startups, right? So it's like, oh, you're just starting a company, so let's get you into the cloud, and you're like, wow, I can just focus on building my software, and I don't have to worry about infrastructure, and they take care of it. But as you get bigger, like you said, it just becomes so hard and so dependent on each cloud. But I guess educate because our audience have startups. There's also mid-sized companies, and then there's also
Mm-hmm.
enterprises. And so I want to make
Yeah.
sure we kind of
Yeah.
explain to each of these audience. So, I mean,
Sure.
what do you think are some of the main challenges of using multi-cloud today without a solution like Emma? You talked about management, right, and complexity,
So,
but can you give some examples targeting kind of different
of
audience?
course,
Meaning, if you're a startup, what are some of the
of
challenges of
course.
using multi-cloud? If you're a mid-sized company, what are some challenges?
First of all, let's be honest. Nobody wants to manage multiple clouds. Nobody literally wants to do this because it's a way too complicated. These different providers, they have different services. There are a lot of different complications, different APIs, different tools, different resource types, inconsistent policies, hard to track spend usage, different, I don't know, billing APIs, protocols, different billing cycles. Every cloud works completely different with a different virtualization, hypervisor, and even with a different hardware equipment. So nobody wants to manage this. I mean, period. And we had a struggle at the beginning when we were pitching the multi-cloud, because when you're reaching out to bigger organizations like bigger enterprises, Walt Disney, United States Postal Services, they tell you, look, guys, I mean, we are multi-cloud because we have a lot of regions where we are present, and I mean, we're building the reliable applications. However, we don't really want you to pitch us the benefits of being multi-cloud. We hate being multi-cloud. It's way too complicated. And these guys, they have hundreds and maybe thousands of engineers. So, but what everyone wants to control the vendor. Everyone wants to be cloud agnostic. Everyone wants to decide which services, tools, applications they want to use or they need to use. And this is important difference. Being cloud agnostic, meaning independent, is a way different of being multi-cloud. And that's what we try to promote, and that's what we try to explain. Take the startups as an example. So the startups, they normally kick off their venture and they're like building the products, picking up simply the provider because of the amount of cloud credits they receive. And they become multi-cloud when they start moving their workloads between the providers, collecting these cloud credits. At the end of the day, they have a distributed infrastructure quite often, managed in different environments. I mean, they raise the funds, they hire DevOps engineers. These DevOps engineers, they're building services. These services are distributed between the providers. But when they burn all these cloud credits, their venture firms, they need to cover the real cost of a cloud. So they need to pay for this infrastructure. And then, I mean, everyone is in trouble because we had the statistics from one of our venture partners. One of their startups, they spend nearly 15% of the round ticket covering the infrastructure costs at the different cloud service providers because they simply collected all the available cloud credits, and they found themselves locked in managed services of these providers. So they've been using Kubernetes from Azure, managed database from AWS alongside the CDN, et cetera, et cetera. So and when they realized that their venture firm and their board members, they were shocked. Imagine you just raised the funds and 20% just vanished. So that's first of all why it's why nobody wants to intentionally introduce multi-cloud. Everyone wants to be cloud agnostic. With the startups, it is quite easy to become multi-cloud, not on purpose, but because of this cloud credits, I would say, hunt. On the other hand, it's really, really hard to get rid of those vendor lock-ins. And I can elaborate even more on the topic why enterprises or bigger organizations, they become multi-cloud or dependent on the multiple cloud service providers with the examples from the bigger players out there.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said right there, I wish I could. I mean, it's such a great insight into private equity backed companies, and how, again, it's like these vendors are just so good at creating business models to not necessarily trick the companies, but it's like they know, right? They get you in there, and then you're kind of stuck with them once you use up all the credits, and you can't turn it off because your company depends on it. And so it's I just love the way you kind of describe that. So we've talked about the challenges. Can you give maybe 3 of the benefits of using multi-cloud that companies may not be aware of, I guess?
Okay, so you decided to narrow it down because I'm using too many words when I'm trying to answer your questions.
No. These are great insights. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, top 3. So first of all, the benefits of being cloud agnostic or being a multiple cloud user, clouds user. So the first of all, it is of course redundancy and resilience. So you don't have a single point of a failure. Even with our platform, we distribute our workloads across the clouds, so your data is securely stored at the different cloud service providers. Even if Emma fails, I mean, if there is an outage, which is impossible because Emma is a set of microservices, your data is securely stored at the providers of your choice. So, I mean, we can commit on this redundancy and resilience of your applications. Second one, of course, it is a cost optimization, right? So you can use and interconnect the best available instances, application, managed services from the different cloud service providers for each and every workload that you have in your environment. You can simply scale your clusters, picking up the best available, spot instance on the marketplace, and you're not limited with a single provider or availability zone or availability of these instances. So you can choose from any of them. And the third one, I would say it's a combination, right? So you can deploy in the specific regions or in specific types of the instances if you need to be compliant to specific regulations. For example, I mean, in Europe, if you're a financial institution, you should be compliant to certain regulations. In the United States of America, you have this HIPAA certification for the medical organizations, right? Where you need to use a specific instances, but they are quite expensive, and not every single application or the part of your environment requires this HIPAA certified instances. So you can create the mix, and you can be flexible. That's why I'm saying that this flexibility and compliance, they go together in your choices, right? And this automatically also improves your cloud bill, reduces your cloud bill. So these are these 3 major benefits. So redundancy and resilience, cost optimization and flexibility
Love
and
it.
compliance.
So I want to, I mean, obviously our podcast is called Spend Advantage because we feel like a lot of times most companies spend money on things and they don't fully know how to optimize it. So I want to deep dive a little bit into the cost optimization part of it. You kind of gave some examples. But obviously, let's say I have
Sure.
AWS, and there are tools or resources from
Hmm.
AWS that supposedly help me reduce costs with AWS.
Hmm.
But I don't think most companies think about or know
Hmm.
that hey, you can also optimize your cost of cloud by diversifying it. So how can you give maybe some examples of how Emma can help companies
Hmm.
optimize their cloud spend?
Yeah, of course, for sure. So, and AWS is a great example because I'll give you like a real life scenario, like real life use case. Uh, Imagine there's a customer of ours, and these guys they're building electric vehicles, like Tesla, but it's not Tesla. So they're building like electric vehicles. They they do this, design. They try to understand how the aerodynamics affects is affected with the diameter of the wheel or like body kit, specific body kit, how the range changes if you use the different types of type of wheels, etc., etc. So they normally do these calculations, and they have reserved instances at AWS. They were 100% AWS. Reserved instances at AWS. They were using preemptive instances at AWS. They had commitment plans, etc., etc., etc. And the entire environment has been built there. But what they also noticed that, for example, there are different cloud service providers, even in the same regions or like nearby regions, where the compute costs lower than the one that they can afford with all these commitment plans, reserved instances, etc. So, but I mean, they never had an idea how they can expand into this clouds, because for them it sounded like you gotta spin up the whole new setup for these environments. Then you need somehow simultaneously track the availability of these instances and then spin up the specific environment to be able to use these cheaper instances. And for them it's like, you pay double. So what we've done for them, we put their workloads inside the microservice, inside the Kubernetes cluster. And this Kubernetes cluster had, and actually has, an auto-scaling policy that says in case you need to get more compute, you scale your worker nodes on the instances, like the cheapest available instances on the marketplace, no matter what cloud service provider offers you these instances. And you pick just the spot instances, like 100% of the spot instances, no matter if it's Azure, AWS, Google, Oracle, whomever else offers this. And you scale the workloads. And when you don't need these instances anymore, you simply release them. So we've managed to save 87% for these guys out of their cloud bill. Just simply moving them into the Kubernetes that scales across the cloud service providers and simply picking up the cheapest available instances and releases these instances when they do not need them anymore. Period.
Is that more of a consulting or professional service from you guys, or is that something they use the platform and it kind of automates for them?
No, I mean, our platform is fully automated. You can spin up the Kubernetes cluster. You can predefine and automate this auto scaling policies. So your cluster scales when it needs to scale. It scales up, scales down. You can create different schedules when you shut it down, when you spin it up. So you can automate everything, and you basically spend minutes, not even hours, spinning up these environments and make these environments scalable.
So here's an interesting question I come across a lot. I want to get your thoughts. So obviously, do you feel like Emma how can Emma best help companies, and kind of give you two scenarios? One is company that doesn't have a lot of cloud engineers and expertise, and
Mhm,
maybe they don't know the
mhm.
clusters and everything, the best way to optimize. So they have one cloud guy, maybe is the developer and the cloud guy. And then you have obviously larger companies where they have more, I guess, expertise or experts on cloud, and they're optimizing it, doing FinOps and everything. How can Emma,
Yeah.
is Emma better for for, can it cover both use cases, or is it better for certain,
Yes.
okay. Can you kind of talk through that?
We can cover both use cases. So I mean, take as an example. I really like the real life examples. So we have a number of customers. They are like a software as a service companies that have grown beyond a simple cloud setup, but don't yet have a mature platform team. So their DevOps engineer, the DevOps team is small and overwhelmed, and infrastructure is growing in complexity. So normally what happens? And the major pain points is a lack of automation, usable configs, Drift, fragmentation tooling, etc. So what we can do, we can act as the platform that automates your cloud operations. So your like DevOps, like engineering team, this smaller team, like really small, teeny team, can focus on the product, not on the pipelines, right? And we can take care of this infrastructure. We can take care of the deployment, automation, provisioning, extrapolation. We also give you recommendations how to reduce your cloud bill, how to improve your infrastructure based on the behavior of the workloads. So your smaller team can focus on something else and forget about this routine dealing with the infrastructure management and deployment and automation. So that's what we do for the smaller organizations. When we're talking about the bigger organizations where people they want to make decisions based on the analytics, on the data. So, like I don't know, CFOs and the financial decision makers. So, first of all, we know that they wanted transparency. We know that they wanted predictability and efficiency in cloud usage, and they care about this because for them it's like it's a black box. They do not understand what's going on there. And normally we know that developers, we have it in our company, developers and engineers, they simply have this I don't know, like corporate credit cards, and they pay for whatever cloud resource they want. And then our finance team is overwhelmed with these invoices, and they do not understand why do we need like hundreds of the VMs. Is it on purpose or what? Or we forgot about these VMs. So the pain points here are the cloud-based overspan, and because of the misconfiguration or idle resources and the growing DevOps costs. So, I mean, for them, these are the pain points. And we can cut this cloud waste, and we can prevent the misconfiguration. We can track these idle resources. We can replace complex tooling with a unified orchestration level, where we are saving not only the time but also the money and the DevOps headcount. So you can actually start making decisions based on the real data that you have in front of you across the variety of cloud service providers and in the understandable UI.
Yeah, first of all, I love the way you give examples and talk through this, because I can see where you're technical, you're an engineer, so you understand the product side of it, the technical side, but then you're also a good salesperson, and so you're able to tell stories, you're able to explain in a sales way. So it's a great combination, and yeah, no, I think everything you mentioned makes a lot of sense. As we kind of come to the end of close to the end of the conversation here, there's a couple last questions. So we talk a lot about optimization. Let's go talk a few seconds about governance and compliance of cloud. Why is it better, and why is it better with Emma versus the cloud platform, using the cloud platform themselves, do you think?
Uh, it's a great question. So cloud platforms, they have their cloud native tools, or I don't know, services, and these tools, they only govern their own ecosystem. What is important to understand that Emma gives you decentralized policy enforcement across all of these environments, all these services, and all of these clouds. Uh, we have an embedded tools for the continuous compliance monitoring. You can decide yourself where you want to store the data, if you want to have this data accessible to the other, I don't know, providers, instances, people, I mean, team members, environments. So it's up to you. You can physically, because we have a physical networking backbone that interconnects the cloud, you can physically disconnect one provider from another or one region from another. You can enable or disable services in a specific geographies. Our GitOps native workflows, they are natively ready for any sort of like audits. And our platform is like multi-cloud. I would say it's multi-cloud native by design with itself governance and the compliance models. So that's why it makes us, I would say, different to standalone cloud platforms.
Okay. So the last question, obviously, we can't have any conversation without AI. You know, the AI in the last year and a half, 2 years has been crazy, the pace and everything. So as we kind of wrap up the conversation here, what is your thought on AI in general, I guess? And then two is how, where's AI maybe impacting Emma from a business perspective?
So yeah, AI is a great topic, and I mean, the tools, they have dramatically changed over the last couple of years. When OpenAI introduced the first version of a ChatGPT, I was a huge skeptic. Now, I mean, the things they have evolved, and what we can do and what we do, we can interconnect the different unique AI services that providers they offer. So, for example, AWS offers for the compute, or GCP offers for AI, Azure for the enterprises. So you can mix and match in a single interface all these different services for the different purposes from the different worlds without managing the chaos behind the scenes. On top of that, we can, and what we allow to build with our platform is a logical GPU clusters to not to train the model, but for inference purposes. Because to train your model, you need to be sure that the latency is less than a couple of milliseconds, which is impossible if you're interconnecting the clouds. Only if the cloud service providers are like literally have their equipment in the same building. However, for the inference purposes, we can create a logical clusters where you can scale your workloads, picking up the GPU instances across the different cloud service providers. So you can fulfill literally the entire need of your company with the accelerators from the different providers, and even you can move the workloads from one provider into another in case our platform finds something that is like significantly cheaper. If the resource, if for example you were using the Spot instance with the GPU accelerator, and if the resource is taken, we detach the volume, we do the snapshot of your memory, and then I mean we spin up another instance and we put this back into the new instance, so you don't lose the results of your processes that's been running there. That's what we do. On top of that, I mean, we can interconnect also your on-premises environment with the cloud environments. For example, you leverage your servers with the accelerators. You I don't know, you do the training, and then for inference purposes, you need more compute capacity. So you can roll out the workloads into the cloud through our platform if your private environment is connected to our networking backbone. So we do a lot of things for the AI companies, starting from the provisioning and ending up with the services that are scalable across the variety of cloud service providers. And we also can interconnect these services with the native services that providers they offer you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much value that you guys provide. That's why we're so excited to partner with you and help you grow the U.S. market. So the last question we always ask every guest that comes on is you've seen a lot, you've done a lot. If you have to give one advice, personal advice or business advice that you're really passionate about, what do you think that would be, Dimitri?
I think for entrepreneurs, it's the obvious one. Like, don't give up. If you really believe you're building something that changes the world, don't give up and simply build this, no matter what happens around. So you gotta make it happen. You're an entrepreneur, and don't listen to anyone. There are only customers, and quite often the customers, they're wrong. But on the other hand, there are only customers who can give you like real feedback. You gotta not even listen to this feedback, but you gotta take this feedback into consideration and build your product or shape your product with regards to your vision. And at the end of the day, you'll get something that is really incredible, that scales, that has an army of, I don't know, followers, users, etc. So never give up, and you will achieve all the heights that you want to achieve.
I love it, man. You are no. This has been a great conversation. Really appreciate the partnership, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, and super excited partnering with you guys.
That was an amazing episode of the Spend Advantage podcast, where we show you how we can help you 10x your bottom line savings and top line growth for your business. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. And if you want to get the best deals from the guest today, make sure to send us a message at sales@verisource.com.